our next reader. Jay is a master class student. Until his recent retirement, he worked for nearly 40 years as a psychotherapist and helping professional. His poetry has appeared in a number of publications, including Crosswinds Poetry Journal, Belleville Literary Review, Ruminate Magazine, the Florida Review, Atlanta Review, Appalachian Heritage, and others. He is also a Pushcart Prize nominee. Welcome, Jay.
Spring, in memory of Martha. One winter, in the late afternoon, my aunt and I took a drive out into the countryside and watched as the sun began to set over icy, fallow farm fields. Its shallow, oblique light, the very thing she wanted me to see, because it was beautiful. Aunts, you see, run in my family. Even though I only had one, she came from a long line of strong aunts, mountain women who fended for themselves, even taking in other people's children like she took me in once, when, as a young man, I was waiting to die of AIDS, and the city had become a mortuary, so I had to get out. One evening in early April, we stood outside listening to chirping sounds. To peepers, my aunt said. I didn't know what those were. Baby frogs, she told me. Child psychologist. In 1965 or 66, when I was about 9, I decided that I wanted to be a child psychologist. I didn't know that this was what I wanted to be until one day some neighborhood father asked me, and out it came, child psychologist, surprising even to me. But it made sense, as my mother had taken me to see one once, a man who let me sit at a low table and play with small, lifelike dolls, arranging them into groups, and then asking me to tell him about them. His voice patient, watching as I moved the mother doll closer to me, the father doll further away, the little boy doll resting in the warmth of the midday sun. "50 minutes. What a curious thing it is to have made a living out of listening. The ear attuned to the slightest pause, the vocal tremor, the eye to any faint facial tick or quiver of a lip to tell you of some untapped current, hour after hour, so that it feels almost devotional. This unearthing of words and truths that rest in the air between you, where everything comes from the inside out. Sometimes it starts with a barrage of words, other times with silence, perhaps followed by a stutter. But either way, the room becomes full as the hour breathes its own rhythm. And the thing is, you never know what is going to happen next, what story you are about to hear, what it is that someone will bear to tell you in an office hushed, muted, and sufficiently insulated. A sanctuary, not only for the one doing the telling, but for you too, the one being told. For where else, except for maybe the confessional box, does such a thing occur? But yours is not the power to forgive or absolve, but only to receive. It is wait to be born, carried across thresholds and around hidden corners, until there is some glimpse of light, where, speaking in a whisper, you recount the exact moment you were abandoned, as if an entire adulthood never happened, and you were alone, only to find yourself here, now, together. In traction. It is the first few weeks of my retirement, and I am in physical therapy, where Tom is treating me first, massaging me, telling me about how his wife is French, and that he loves local history, and did I know that the empty lot by the bridge in Sag Harbor is going to become a small park, while he pushes up the sleeve of my shirt to get at my shoulder, which has been in spasm ever since I pinched a nerve in my neck, and is now in need of Tom's touch. I am then delivered to Kyle, who patiently guides me through my exercises, speaking so softly that I have to ask him to repeat himself with each new instruction. And as he does, I think of his family, picturing a whole clan of gentle, soft-spoken people, allowing myself to imagine what it must be like to go through the world having been raised that way, quietly. Finally, it's time for Lisi, who puts me in traction, while telling me about her boyfriend, who got a job on a vineyard on the North Fork, and how he has to take 2 ferries just to get there, which makes me think of my work, all those years of being a psychotherapist, and how I could walk to my office, never leaving Greenwich Village, and usually taking my dog with me, who would sometimes be there for 6 or 7 clients, never moving except when someone cried, curling up next to them at their feet. But now I'm here, in traction, suspended, immobilized, delivered even, if only for 15 minutes, from the weight of wondering what does one do with all the time, and from not knowing what it means or how it will be in this new place, amid all these new stories, and for the first time, to have only myself to help. And this last poem is called After AIDS, in memory of Danny and Lee and David. The weeds I found in my driveway this morning pulled up easily enough, although I did have to yank a bit on that clump of grass, kneeling down, getting my fingers below the gravel close to the dirt so I could pull and tug at the root, the rip and tear of it so satisfying, the small dark hole left behind a testament to my devotion. Every morning, every walk with the dog, I am constantly bending over to pull up even the smallest of weeds, or to pick up a stick, or remove a stray pine cone, tossing them into the woods, wiping the dirt from my fingers, and then smoothing out the small stones. In the winter when it snows, I resist getting the driveway plowed, worrying about how the heavy blade will disturb the gravel, displacing it, scattering it, or how, if the snow is deep, the plow guy won't quite see the curves of the driveway, damaging the moss and periwinkle that grow alongside it. And I fear that when the snow melts, my heart will break. At the end of the driveway is a witch hazel tree, a tree that flowers in the winter. Small, bright yellow blossoms coat its thin branches, appearing usually in February, before spring, before forsythia, or crocuses, or even snowdrops, before everything else. But then again, after it all, too. Thank you.